Okay, so let us now just go through one more problem to understand exactly how the bidding strategies in Nash equilibrium in first price auction work. So the example that we had actually discussed in the lecture, that was a bit more abstract. So what we are doing in this practice problem is we are putting some numbers so as to hopefully make things a bit more clearer, right? So here's the situation. You have got two people, Aparna and Bhaskar, who are bidding for an object. And you have got a seller who is selling the object. So the seller is going to be using first price auction. So what that means is that the seller is going to accept bids in sealed envelopes from each bidder and then will sell the object to the highest bidder at the bid that the highest bidder has committed to, right? So what are the assumptions that are there in this setup? So let's assume that each of the bidders believe that the other is equally likely to value the object at any amount between 0 and 100, right? So what this means is that the valuation is drawn from uniform distribution from 0 and 100 in the continuous distribution sense, okay? So let's see if we make sure that we understand this. So for example, what is Aparna's belief regarding the probability that Bhaskar values the object at less than 30? So then this is basically saying that if Bhaskar's valuation follows uniform 0, 100, what's the probability that Bhaskar's valuation is actually less than 30? So you can use the CDF of the uniform distribution to get that. And so therefore the answer is 30 by 100 or 0.3, right? So you could have asked more general questions as we'll do in this context. Okay, now let's consider a particular scenario where the object is actually worth 80 to Aparna. And in the setup that we do in first price auction, so this information is only available to Aparna, right? It's not available to the seller. It's not available to Bhaskar. And we are now thinking the problem in terms of what Aparna is going to do under different cases, okay? So this scenario that we are considering is the one where we are given this information that Aparna values the object at 80 and Aparna knows this valuation of the object, okay? So if it is a first price auction, then it means that if Aparna gets the object, her profit is going to be the difference between 80 and what she pays for it, which is her bid. And if Aparna does not get the object, then the profit will be zero, right? So this is how we get this payoff of the first price auction, right? And what is Aparna's objective? So Aparna is going to look for a way to bid in order to maximize her expected profit, okay? Now, whenever she is doing her expected profit, she needs to form some beliefs about what Bhaskar is doing, okay? And so we'll go through that particular context, right? So let's first assume that Aparna thinks that Bhaskar is going to bid exactly what the object is worth to him. We are going to see if this assumption makes sense later on or not. But first, we are going to start out by this assumption just to understand a few preliminary steps. Okay, so in this setup where Aparna has a valuation of 80 for the object, and Aparna thinks that Bhaskar will bid exactly what the object is worth to him, and both of them draw independent valuations from this uniform case that we have discussed. Let's try and answer these questions, right? So if she bids 70 for the object, what is her belief regarding the probability that she will get the object? That's question A. Question B is, if she gets the object for 70, when her valuation is 80, what will be her profit? And finally, what is her expected profit if she actually bids 70, right? So at this point, please pause the video and think about the answers to these questions before you proceed further. Okay, so if she bids 70 for the object, then what is a belief that she will get the object? So she will get the object. Remember, she believed that Bhaskar is going to bid exactly what he values the object, right? So she's going to get the object if Bhaskar basically bids less than equal to 70, which according to her belief will translate into Bhaskar's actual valuation will be below 70, right? So since Bhaskar's valuation is drawn from uniform 0, 100, then this probability is going to be given by 70 by 100 or 0.7, right? So we are basically using this result that we had here, but instead of 30, we now have put in 70, okay? So that's how we got this number here, okay? So if she gets the object for 70, what is the profit? Remember, Aparna valued the object at 80. So then if she gets it for 70, then her profit is equal to 10. And what is her expected profit if she bids 70? So she thinks that she's going to win with probability 0.7, in which case her profit is going to be 10. and she's going to lose with probability 0.3, in which case her profit is going to be 0. Remember that if she does not get the object, then her profit is always 0 in this first price auction. Then therefore the expected profit is 0.7 multiplied by 10 or 7, right? That's the answer to this question. Okay. Now, we have kind of like done this assuming that the object is worth 80 to Aparna and that she bid 70, right? Let's now kind of like consider any bid that she could have done, right? Not just 70, but like any bid X that she can done, right? So let's try and answer the same questions we continue with the assumption that Aparna believes that Bhaskar will bid exactly what the object is worth to him. The only difference from the previous case is that instead of specifying 70, we want to solve it for the general case X, okay? And Aparna still values the object at 80. So again, the same questions. What is the probability that she'll get the object? What is the profit in this case? And what is our expected profit as a function of X, right? Where earlier we had done X equal to 70, but now we want to do the general case. Again, I encourage you to pause at this point and think about it a bit before proceeding further. Okay, so suppose she does bid X for the object. What's the probability that she'll get the object? So she'll get the object if Bhaskar's valuation is actually less than X, right? Again, this is under the assumption that Bhaskar will bid exactly what the object is worth to him. So in that case, she'll get the object with probability X by 100, right? So this is basically referring to the case that what is probability that Bhaskar's valuation is less than X, right? Okay, what's the profit in this case? So her valuation of the object was 80, she bid X, she won. So then her profit in this case is 80 minus X. What's the expected profit as a function of X? So if she bids X, then with probability X by 100, she wins. In that case, her profit is 80 minus X. With probability 1 minus X by 100, she loses, in which case her profit is 0. So that will not factor into the expected profit. So this is an expression that we have for the expected profit. Now, notice that if Aparna was choosing X in this case, where her under this assumption that she has about what she thinks what Bhaskar is doing, as well as the valuation of her object being 80. In this case, if she chooses X to maximize this, you can do this exercise. This will give you that she should actually bid 40, right? So how do we get that? So this is basically choose X to maximize 80 minus X multiplied by X by 100. So the by 100 part is just a constant. You can ignore it. So it's as if you're choosing X to maximize 80 minus X multiplied by X. So that is a simple derivative problem. And then you can see that that will lead to X equal to 40, right? So that's one answer. Now, here we have assumed that Aparna's valuation of the object was 80. Why don't we generalize that as the next step, right? So let's consider the general case where the value of the object to Aparna is V. Okay. And Aparna continues to believe that Bhaskar will bid exactly what the object is worth to him. Now, we can actually do the same calculations as we have done and calculate first what is the expected profit in terms of V and X if Aparna bids X for the object. And then we can also figure out as a function of V, what's the optimal bid that will maximize her expected profit, right? So notice the sequence in which we are doing about in this problem, right? So first we had specific cases 80 and then 70, and then we generalized the 70 to X, and now we are generalizing the 80 to V, right? Okay. So what's the expected profit? How do you go about calculating it? You again do the same thing. So suppose you bid X, then in that case, Aparna will win the object with a probability equal to X by 100, right? And if she wins, then her profit is going to equal to V minus X, right? Earlier we had V equal to 80, but now we are dealing with the general V case. So this is V minus X. If she loses as before, her profit is 0. So what is our expected profit? So that's going to be equal to X by 100, which is the probability of winning, multiplied by V minus X, which is the profit if she wins, plus 1 minus X by 100, which is the probability of losing, multiplied by 0, which is the profit if she loses, right? So this simplifies to this expression here. And you can actually now think about what is the value of X that will maximize this. Again, the division by 100 is just a multiplicative constant, so you can ignore that. So she'll basically choose X equal to V by 2 to maximize this profit if her valuation is V, right? So that's the finding that we get. Okay. Now, if I were to summarize what we have so far, it's that if Aparna believes that Bhaskar will bid exactly as much as the object is worth to him, then she should bid only half as much as the object is worth to him. But in this case, Aparna should perhaps start to question her belief that Bhaskar is going to bid exactly as much as the object worth to him, right? Because she reasoned out that in this case, she would have actually bid only half of what the object was worth to him. But the situation is symmetric, right? So Aparna could also kind of like think that perhaps Bhaskar is not going to bid exactly as much as the object is worth to him, but perhaps he's going to bid exactly what strategy she's applying, right? Which is that bid half as much as what the object is worth to him, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to do a sequence of steps where we are going to figure out what's the best thing for Aparna to do if she believes that Bhaskar will bid only half as much as what the object is worth to him. Okay, so this is the exercise we want to do. All right, so let's first think about this question. So if Bhaskar always bids half of what the object is worth to him, what is the maximum amount that Bhaskar will bid? Remember that the valuation of the object for Bhaskar is going to come from uniform 0, 100. So the maximum valuation that Bhaskar can have for the object is 100, right? Now, if Bhaskar always bids half of what the object is worth to him, then the maximum amount that Bhaskar will bid is 50, right? So in this scenario, if Aparna kind of like understands this reasoning, then would Aparna ever want to bid more than 50.01? Suppose the increment is in 0.01 terms. The answer is no, right? Why? Because if she's already bidding 50.01, she's already guaranteeing that she'll win, right? So any additional increase in her bid does not affect her probability of winning, but it affects how much she'll have to pay if she actually wins, right? So this is basically just leading to a reduction in her expected profit, right? So this 0.01, then we got, if we thinking of in terms of increment of 0.01, if you think of smaller and smaller increments, you will get the result in the limit that Aparna will never want to bid more than 50, right? So that is one thing to keep in mind as we go through the next set of exercise. Okay, now let's again kind of like think about the type of questions that we were trying to answer. So we know now that Aparna definitely will not bid 70, so there's no point in exactly doing that exercise. But suppose we do a similar exercise in the sense that suppose that the object is worth 80 to Aparna and she bids 30 for it, okay? Now, we know that in this case, under the assumption that Aparna has about Bhaskar's bidding behavior, Aparna will feel that she will only get the object if the value of the object to Bhaskar is less than 60. Why does it make sense? Because suppose that she felt that the value of the object to Bhaskar was actually 70, then in that case, if she bids 30, then she will feel that she is not likely to get the object because Bhaskar then will have bid 35, right? So only if the value of the object is less than 60, then Aparna will feel that she'll get the object. So in this case, let's try and answer the following questions. What's the probability that Aparna thinks that she will get the object if she bids 30 for it? Okay. What is Aparna's profit if she bids 30 and wins? And what is Aparna's expected profit if she bids 30? So notice that this is the same set of type of questions that we had answered before, but earlier we had answered it under the assumption that Aparna thought that Bhaskar will bid exactly his valuation. Now we are thinking that Bhaskar will bid half of his valuation, right? Okay, so let's go through this step. So Aparna will feel that she will win the object if she bids 30 for it, if Bhaskar's valuation of the object is less than 60, right? And that happens with a probability 60 by 100, right? So that's the answer to the first part, which is 0.6. So what is Aparna's profit if she bids 30 and wins? Well, remember that the object was worth 80 to Aparna. So if she wins by bidding 30, then she's going to have a profit of 50. And what is Aparna's expected profit if she bids 30? So that is 50 multiplied by 0.6 plus 0, which is her profit if she loses, multiplied by 0.4, which is the profit probability if she of her losing. And so therefore the expected profit is 50 multiplied by 0.6 or 30. Okay, so that's how we do it. Again, let us kind of like generalize. So suppose that Aparna continues to believe that Bhaskar is going to bid only half as much as what the object is worth to him. But now instead of 80, let's do the general case where Aparna values the object at V, and we are trying to figure out what should Aparna bid as a function of this V and her beliefs, right? So clearly she's not going to bid more than 50 because of the reasons that we have discussed. So let's consider any bid that she's doing X, which is less than equal to 50. So she will win only if Bhaskar's valuation of the object is less than 2x. How do we get this? This is again following from the fact that Aparna believes that Bhaskar will bid only half as much as what the object is worth. Okay, so she will win only if Bhaskar's valuation of the object is less than 2x, and this can happen with probability 2x by 100. Okay, now if she wins, what is her profit? So this is equal to what her valuation is, which is V, minus what she's bidding X, right? So what is her expected profit if she bids X? So this is going to be given by probability that she's going to win, which is given by 2x by 100, multiplied by her profit if she wins, which is V minus X. And then if she loses anyway, her profit is 0, so that is not factored in, right? So in this case, again, she's going to choose X to maximize this expression that you see here, V minus X multiplied by 2x by 100, where she takes the V as given because she knows what her V is. And so if you now do the calculation, this is the same as maximizing V minus X multiplied by X. And so therefore, X is equal to V by 2, right? So she should bid again half her valuation, right? So what are the main findings that we get from here, right? So suppose that Aparna believes that Bhaskar will bid half of his actual value, and Bhaskar also has the same belief about Aparna, that Bhaskar believes that Aparna will bid half of her actual value, right? And suppose that they are both acting to kind of like maximize their expected profit independently given these beliefs, then we find that these self-beliefs are self-confirming in the sense that given these beliefs, each is taking the action that the other expects, right? So this is actually, if you think about it, goes back to what is the notion of Nash equilibrium, which is imposing a constraint in terms of consistency, right? So this is hopefully useful in terms of making the mechanics of what we discussed in first price auction, where we had discussed previously in the lecture a more abstract example. This is in terms of a more concrete example with numbers where we have broken down the steps. So hope this was useful. So for future readings, you might want to kind of like look at the two references that were used to prepare this lecture. So the main reference is this chapter 9 of this book that we have been using, Networks, Routes, and Markets. And the other reference that is useful is another book on economics called Intermediate Microeconomics by Halvarian, which is especially useful for the different types of problems that we have been looking at. So you'll also find in the textbook at the end of chapter 9 a lot of problems. So you are encouraged to do those problems to test your understanding. And of course, we'll have like other assignments also given to you to practice more.